What if I told you a truck driver cracked the code to building a crypto empire? Meet Bitcoin Ben. He went from driving 18-wheelers to creating 6 different ways for regular people to stack Bitcoin and build wealth. This isn't just another crypto course. This is a complete ecosystem where you earn while you learn. First up, the confidential bulk purchase program. Get Bitcoin at wholesale prices through group buying power. Then there's Home to HODL. Convert your home equity directly into Bitcoin instead of cash. Need funding? The Loans for Bitcoin program gets you the capital to buy more crypto. Want passive income? Private Key Capital puts your Bitcoin to work. Hungry for something different? Bitcoin Ben's tokenized beef lets you invest in real cattle backed by blockchain technology. And if you want to mine, Bitcoin Ben's mining program gets you started with the right equipment and knowledge. But here's the kicker. Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club pays you to learn. Earn 10% on direct referrals, 5% on second level, 2% on third level. This might be the only membership where you make more than you pay. Ben went from 10 years behind the wheel to becoming the world's most unlikely crypto expert. Now he's sharing everything through live training, community events, and proven systems that work. Ready to stop watching from the sidelines? Join Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club today and start stacking sats while building your financial future. Your truck driving days are over. Your crypto empire starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J. I'm Dr. J and I'm here in Sarasota today. It's good to be back home in somewhat lighter clothes, I might say. It was wonderful this morning. I came into the office and here's Baxter, Sherpa's dog, who came running up and recognized me and said, "Where have you been all these weeks?" So it's just good to be back home. It's good to be back in Sarasota. And, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. These days, it's remarkable that every time I have a, conversation about Bitcoin, I can't help but think about the 1990s. And honestly, sometimes I miss that sound of that dial-up internet, that screeching, metallic, whiny sound like R2-D2 being waterboarded. And I remember thinking, people saying, "Oh, this internet thing is never going to catch on." Just like they talk about Bitcoin today. It's never going to catch on. See, it's funny how history humiliates us every single time without mercy. So here we are, standing on the edge of yet another technical revolution, a monetary cliff. And if you listen closely, really listen closely, you will hear the exact sound. It's the sound of the old system begging for oxygen. So today I want to do a dissection. I want to analyze. I want to lay out a thesis for you guys, almost like as if I was in a courtroom, laying out why Bitcoin-backed products have a place in indexes. What JP Morgan and company are trying to do is remove Bitcoin products from rating agencies and therefore from the indexes. And that's important, that this recognition happens, that Bitcoin is actually superior to the other products out there. So we're going to delve into that. I've been doing a lot of work in that area. Last week, I talked a little bit about what JP Morgan was doing, how they were manipulating the market, and how they feel an existential threat to not having a Bitcoin product. So now they are adopting it. So let's just dial back a little bit, and what I want to do is take a trip down memory lane and, the time period from 95 to 2005, a time period when I was in Silicon Valley. The internet was right where Bitcoin is today. I remember it very vividly. And so I want to learn from those experiences, and I remember the events and the sequence of events that happened. Many of you remember what it was like. The internet was weird, it was messy, it was not regulated. we used to have these chat rooms dominated and hosted with people with usernames like Dragon Master 78, right? Or Lily 1980, right? Companies didn't see that as a revolution. Corporations didn't see that evolution coming. They were too busy laminating their business cards and mission statements and polishing up the brass on their tables. And then suddenly, AOL buys Netscape. Bang. What the hell is Netscape? It was like a meteor hitting the dinosaur's head. That's what it was. See, in 1998, AOL acquired this company called Netscape. And of course, Wall Street said it was reckless, it was desperate, and frankly, it was stupid. Now, what they didn't understand is that Netscape was not selling a browser. Netscape was selling a standard, a protocol, a gateway, a new language for digital commerce. You see, once you had that browser, you could frame anything inside that browser and transport it easily across multiple different platforms, multiple different PCs. You didn't have to have that R2D2 sound coming in. You could jump from one website to another without having to do a physical layer connection. This is a whole new parameter. It was a new paradigm. And that is the point where I would say corporate America realized that if you didn't buy into that future, your obituary was going to be written quite soon. Put that context. Lean back and remember that time. Know that everything that I've told you so far was absolutely real. Today, Bitcoin is that new Netscape. See, the next M&A wave that's going to come will not be the internet companies. It'll be the banks. It'll be the credit unions. It'll be the sovereign wealth funds. It'll be the asset managers. And what will they be buying? They will be buying Bitcoin native companies just to stay alive. That's my prediction. Why is that my prediction? It's because I have seen this movie before. All the internet companies were bought up. There was a huge wave of mergers and acquisitions that took place. And the so-called traditional, well-established American companies went on a feeding frenzy to buy up internet companies. I remember I couldn't see a bus which didn't have a .com company advertised right across the broadside of it. So this AOL Netscape thing was not just a merger. It is a confession that if you don't embrace the future, you will get purchased by it. This is where Bitcoin is today. You see, the adoption curve almost always follows the same steps. You go from a pattern of ignorance. You go to resistance. And after resistance, you go to ridicule. And after your ridicule doesn't work, you go to capitulation. You capitulate to the demands. And once you capitulate, the adoption begins, leads to total dependency of the system. This is a story that we have seen numerous times through history. I have no reason to believe, none, that the Bitcoin adoption is not going to follow that same curve. We have seen the pattern of ignorance, and hence our Bitcoin Ben clubs, because we are educating people. We are driving them away from ignorance to light, from darkness to light, from not understanding what Bitcoin is, fugazi, to this is the only sound money. I can print a piece of paper for 0.03 cents. It costs me $43,000 of real money, a proof of work, which is validated and verified to make a Bitcoin. So the first step, a pattern of ignorance. Have we already seen it? Damn right we have. And we are trying to educate people. We're trying to teach them. Knowledge is power. Learn about Bitcoin. And then came the second phase, which was resistance, right? Bitcoin is a fraud. The resistance, we want to ignore this. We're not even going to look at these crypto bros. We don't like them. We think they're a, spark in the pan. And then comes the ridicule oozing out of the Jamie Dimons of the world. How this is a fraud. This can be used for bad, malicious purposes, like, of course, US dollars never been used for drug smuggling or for prostitution or for all kinds of human trafficking or arms deals. Of course, none of those things happen in the world today, right? It only happens when Bitcoin got invented. So you can see that mask coming off, and then comes the phase of capitulation. And capitulation's happening because I looked at the news last week. After they artificially depressed the Bitcoin price, JP Morgan launched their Bitcoin-backed bond, silly product. Then Bank of America went out there with Merrill Lynch and decided their 1,600 or whatever number of private wealth management bankers are going to charge forward and tell their clients to put at least 4% into Bitcoin. We had the lovely Goldman Sachs do a $2 billion purchase of a little Bitcoin ETF company. Remember? All the Bitcoin companies will get purchased by the big boys. And then Vanguard, the CEO who said, not in my lifetime, Bitcoin will never, ever come to Vanguard. Well, he got fired. So now Vanguard has announced last week that they're going to have Bitcoin-backed products. So you're starting to see that we are in that evolution of time. We're looking at capitulation happening. We looked at these 4 big corporations last week, announced in one form or another. They're not doing it because they want to or like to, but because they have no choice. And what this leads to is adoption, and this adoption then leads to a greater amount of dependency for the monetary system itself, with Bitcoin. I tell you, this AOL thing really, I was thinking early as I was driving into work, every home used to get these AOL CDs. I mean, they would come in the mail. For some of you who are old enough as I am, these damn CDs would come. And I remember, so many of them would come. I actually used them to level out the wobbly kitchen table that I had, and it fixed it. It was a multi-purpose technology, these AOL CDs. But I digress. The point is that the internet curve and the Bitcoin adoption curve, the internet curve during 95 to 2005, is almost identical to the Bitcoin adoption curve from 2020 to 2030, just separated by a span of 30 years. The same ridicule, the same resistance, the same sound of inevitability. Now, let me tell you something about the incumbents, the big boys, the titans of the industry, right? As they have gone from these phases with going from mockery to anger to denial, I think that they're getting to my favorite stage of that evolution, which is they start writing checks. Look at the parallels. IBM first, they used to have those AS400s. IBM completely mocked personal computers. So these things would never take off. And then what happened? They scrambled to buy a bunch of PC companies. Microsoft ignored the internet to the extent they could. And then what happened? They bought Hotmail, and they strong-armed their way into browsers in, I think, antitrust ways. Time Warner, they dismissed AOL, and then merged with AOL in perhaps what I remember as one of the most awkward marriages since, Sears and Kmart. So today, here we are seeing the same thing evolving again, this whole Bitcoin thing. Now, let's call out JP Morgan by name, right? The same guys who have been calling Bitcoin a fraud are quietly building Bitcoin-backed products, Bitcoin-backed bonds. And now what I'm hearing is that JP Morgan is actually exploring native custody of Bitcoin as well. I mean, the hypocrisy of this is unbelievable. I mean, it's like this preacher who condemns sin on Sunday and he's caught in Motel 8 with the local hussy on a Monday, right? It's predictable. It's delicious. It's ironic. Then you have names like BlackRock and Fidelity and Vanguard. I mean, these are names that terrified startups more than the IRS, because if you had one of these big boys enter your market, you were dead. There's nothing you could do. They had infinite capital, they had infinite people, and they could buy up everything they wanted. But the nice thing about these mergers and acquisition is Bitcoin companies will get acquired. I mean, there's no question. They're going to get acquired by the big boys, right? But they're going to make a lot of money doing it. So this Bitcoin bond framework leading to native custody and rails, you have to ask yourself, again, why are they doing this? Yes, we know they went through anger and denial and all the phases of a alcoholic till they get to a level where they start to write checks, because they fully understand that the ground is shifting below their feet. They can call it a hedge. We are hedging our risks. You can use any sort of euphemistic term that you would like to. Oh, we're protecting our clients' interest. These are all these wonderful sounding statements. In plain and simple terms, they hear the sound of inevitability. This train is coming, it's going to run over them. They're bending their knees to Bitcoin because there isn't a goddamn thing they can do about it other than join the crowd and write some checks. And we're happy with that. So let's talk about this very moment. We're here at the end of 2025, going into 26. We are literally inside this transformation that is happening. And the way you will know that you're inside this transformation is if you just step back and see what happened in 2020, right after COVID. MicroStrategy detonates what I'll call the sort of the corporate treasury revolution. Have a bunch of Bitcoin on your balance sheet. What a crazy idea. Saylor comes up with this absolutely what appears to be a crazy idea. He takes $250 million, buys a bunch of Bitcoin, leverages himself up, buys more Bitcoin, and his board tells him he's a moron. The market tells him he's an idiot. And yet, it's a nuclear bomb. This idea that you should hold balance sheet, you should hold Bitcoin on your balance sheet as a store of value. Insane. But you see, his insane idea gets validated by Tesla. In 21, Tesla says, you know what? There's something to this. And we should hold some Bitcoin on our balance sheet. And Square goes, yeah, I think we should hold some too. And even some countries go, especially the countries that are hurting, they go, yep, we can hold some Bitcoin on our balance sheet. And so by 23, 24, the institutions finally admit that they're wrong, that they should, in fact, hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So now into 25, leading into 30, you see Bitcoin is starting to become infrastructure. It's starting to become a way we do things. And trust me, I love this part because everyone who's calling Bitcoin a fad in the last 4 years, last 8 years, will eventually claim they always believed in Bitcoin. Just watch. Look at your neighbors, look at your friends. In a couple of years, they'll be all going, oh yeah, we believed in Bitcoin. We just knew it was going to happen, right? This is inevitable because that is what history is telling us. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter. Yes, Saylor proved that Bitcoin is in fact a store of value. You have all heard his lecture. You can't debase it. You can't burn it. You can't destroy it with floods. All the things you can do to a house or a corporation. You can't steal it. You can't do, whatever. It's safe. It stays for 1,000 years. It stores value. The most secure container you can think of. All of that good stuff. It's been impinged into my brain that is true. It has been proven by other corporations that's true. It's being proven by sovereign nations that's true. Bitcoin stores value. We got it. But if you think that's the end of the story, it's like you're reading the table of contents and assuming that you know what's written in the whole book. See, Bitcoin is utility. And I'm going to lay out a thesis for you as to why Bitcoin is utility. Let's just start. What does utility mean? Utility means that something is useful. Why is Bitcoin useful? Well, let's start with the settlement rail. I was delighted to build it for our El Salvador credit union. You got a bunch of really good coders. I like them. They're driven. They don't work for money. They work for freedom. I love that about them. What is a settlement rail? Well, Bitcoin can settle transactions anywhere in the planet, anytime, any amount, from any two parties. It can do that for pennies, instead of 3 and 4 and 5%. It doesn't need the SWIFT system. It doesn't need your ACH. It doesn't need your MT106 protocol. It needs none of that. Just that as the utility. If Bitcoin had no other value other than it could move billions of dollars safely, securely, instantly, for a few pennies across the globe, anytime, between any parties, without any counterparty, without any central control, do you think that technology has value? Damn right that technology has value. Value that we can't even measure at this point. We haven't even scratched the surface. Well, that's just one utility of Bitcoin. Allow me further. Bitcoin is an energy monetization tool. Every civilization that we know in history has been built on energy. If it wasn't wood and fire by the Flintstones, it was coal, it was oil, it was nuclear. Energy drives civilizations. Bitcoin is an energy monetization tool. It can suck up all of our excess energy. Billions and billions of cubic feet of stranded gas, of flare gas, of energy that is being just driven off the grid because no one knows how to store it. We don't have big batteries. Wind power, solar power, you name it. Energy is being wasted all over the place, enormous amounts. Bitcoin can monetize all of that, take that energy, and no, not convert it into a battery and have a temporary storage of watts to watts, but Bitcoin takes that excess energy and converts it to a bit and then puts it into this construct called Bitcoin, a mathematical construct running on elliptical curves and SHA-256 algorithms. You capture the genie in a bottle. You take all that energy and you convert it into value that lives for 1,000 years. Do you think that's useful to human civilization? Damn right it is. Is that a utility? By all means. If I could take all the excess energy in the world and program it into value that lives forever, that I can unleash the potential for whenever I want, yep, that's useful. Let's argue further. It's programmable collateral. It's not gold. I can program Bitcoin. I can send Bitcoin. I can transact with Bitcoin. I can create derivative products off of Bitcoin. It's programmable. You can't program gold bars. You can program Bitcoin. It's an ultra secure global remittance layer. You have any idea how big the global remittance size is? It's trillions. Bitcoin is the replacement for the unbanked. I mean, there's large swaths of the world which is completely unbanked because they don't have banks. And yet they can have a bank and all of its functions instantaneously on a phone. Cross-border payment infrastructure. Do you have any idea how complicated it is to send an ACH from Sarasota's Wells Fargo to a bank in El Salvador or Panama or any other part of South America or Africa or India or Asia? It's insane. Ben had to spend 4 hours trying to get a wire out to me in El Salvador the other day. And he just sat there and the bank manager asked about 5,000 questions. Some of you have experienced that. With Bitcoin, we have a cross-border transaction infrastructure, which is instantaneous and doesn't ask for a bank manager to sit there who's taking lunch breaks and eating his hoagie. Don't care. Don't need you. Bitcoin is utility. Bitcoin is a stabilizer for treasuries. The state of Florida, the state of Texas, other states who have debts on their balance sheet, including this defunct corporation called the United States of America. They're trying to stabilize their treasury through Bitcoin. They're trying to reprice gold and make it into Bitcoin. That's utility. And it is certainly becoming a sovereign hedge for nations that are drowning in debt. So let that sink in. Let that sink in. So for all of you who think Bitcoin is simply a store of value, I just laid out a thesis for you that tells you why this protocol, this platform, this technology is useful. It is, in fact, the very first asset in all of human history that can be money, that can be collateral, that can be energy, and it can be savings simultaneously. There is no other product in the world that can exhibit any characteristics anywhere close to it. Try doing that with a stock certificate, a piece of paper, or with a dollar, or with a treasury bond that doesn't even yield as much as my Costco savings cards does, right? So you wonder what Satoshi was thinking as you unravel these layers and layers. I mean, I bought my first Bitcoin in 2014. I've had a rocky relationship with Bitcoin since then. But here I am. I'm loving it. Sometimes I wonder when I'm walking through the supermarket what Satoshi might have been thinking, looking at his list. Bread, eggs, milk, revolution. We'll never know. All right, I'm going to take a quick Commercial break, a word from our sponsors, and I'll be right back. And we're going to delve into the whole credit and grading of assets and use in indexes. So I'll be right back. For years, banks promised innovation, but they gave us fees and friction and fine prints. Today, all that changes. Introducing Private Key Bank from Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club, the world's first Bitcoin native credit union. Rebuilt from the ground up in the heart of El Salvador, a place where your Bitcoin isn't just stored, it grows. Earn 4% interest paid in Bitcoin, compounded, secured, and accessible. No middlemen, no hidden games, just your money working for you. Send funds across borders instantly, without SWIFT codes, without currency conversions. Pay anyone, anywhere, with a tap of a finger. This isn't banking as usual. This is freedom, beautifully engineered. The future of finance is finally here. Bitcoin is beautiful. And you know, calling Bitcoin a risk asset is like calling gravity a suggestion. I'm a physicist. I look at things fundamentally. What I'm seeing fundamentally is that Bitcoin, and I'm not just being a cheerleader for Bitcoin, I'm actually looking at it in a way that I've looked at, you know, the browser technology, that I've looked at database technology in the 70s and 80s when Oracle came up with this relational database. It changed the way we analyzed data, it changed the way we stored data, it changed the way we slice and dice data, created CRMs, it created ERP systems, multi-billion markets. This Bitcoin is not a coin, it's a technology. It's almost like a misnomer. But anyway, saying that as it may be, we now need to escalate. I need to lay out again, surgically, meticulously, like a lawyer in court. I want to dissect for you why Bitcoin-backed products belong in the S&P 500, not just the MSCI index. Bitcoin products, treasury-backed, energy-backed, mining-backed, credit-backed, absolutely should be included in all of the major indices. That's what I'm pushing for. I don't want to have this ridiculous argument that Jamie Dimon, the cartoon, is like trying to get Michael Saylor's company off of the MSCI index. That's nonsense. I want to swing the pendulum the other way. I believe it's the only hard money, and the products must be included in S&P and in all the Fortune 500 indexes. Here's why. Number one, Bitcoin's market cap is already larger than most S&P companies. It's just a fact. You can't deny it. Liquidity. It's 24/7. It's global. It's unstoppable. I can send Bitcoin anywhere to anywhere, any amount. This thing is huge. Which stock does that? Which stock does that? Bitcoin has utility. I just laid out multiple functional layers beyond speculation. So when somebody says, oh, this stock can be on the list of S&P 500 because Well, they make widgets. They make little tents. They make whatever product. They have utility. Well, we have utility. More utility than any other of these companies that you can find. It's a product that is diversified from the rest of the products in the market. It's the only non-sovereign, non-corporate store of value. It's not a bond issued by a country or a company. It is non-sovereign, non-corporate. Now, why on earth would we not want to have a product in our indexes that exhibits those characteristics? What are some of the other parameters? If I was sitting there as an index guy on the board, what are the things what are the characteristics that I'm looking for to include or exclude a product, a financial product, from the index? Oh, I'm looking at auditability. Well, guess what, folks? We just built the most amazing credit union that closes its books every 10 minutes. It's the only asset class in the world which has real-time proofing. Every 10 minutes, you can close the books. Every 10 minutes, you know exactly what the value of your corporation is. Show me one other company that can do that. Most companies can hardly close their books annually. The really good ones, like Cisco and others who put a lot of technology systems in, close it once a quarter. We close it every 10 minutes. You want to talk about auditability? Never mind. And there's global demand. Why would I put something on the index? Because people want it. Corporations want to hold it on their stock, on their balance sheet. Sovereign nations want to hold it in their treasuries. Institutions want to hold it as a hedge against inflation. So any parameter, that any lens through which you want to look at Bitcoin and Bitcoin products, it would tend to suggest that they should be included in the indexes. So now let's expose the truth as to why we are even having this inane conversation from JP Morgan to tell the world why MSTR should not be included in the MSCI index, which is a little Morgan Stanley something index, right? Here's the truth. They're rating agencies. See, the rating agencies are private. They can be influenced. They can be, how should we put it politely? They can be massaged, okay? So when you think of Moody's and S&P and Fitch, the same agencies, the same rating agencies that slapped on a AAA rating on toxic mortgages in 2007, yes, those are the same guys. Same guys who are refusing to rate the Bitcoin products. This is not risk. This is not risk. See, if you can't get rated, you can't be in an index. Who owns the rating company? A bunch of private guys own the rating companies. See, index funds, here's the truth. Index funds can't buy what rating companies won't validate. There, I told you. And the rating agencies will not validate what threatens their existing financial architecture. There's the choke point. The choke point 3.0 that I talked to you about a couple of shows ago. That's the bottleneck. That's why Bitcoin is so disruptive. I was looking up who runs that MSCI index. There's this fellow who's been there since 1998. He's a big climate change, ESG bullshit proponent guy. He's a deep state guy. Of course he doesn't want Bitcoin in the MSCI index because it threatens its existing financial architecture. So you really start to delve in and you start to find out what is happening. These are the choke points. If the rating agency doesn't rate, the index cannot include. And if the index cannot include, then the index funds that route billions and billions of 401k money, insurance money, and all of that into buying the S&P, buying the Dow Jones, buying the whatever index, they can't do it. And effectively, you just choked all the money that can come into a product backed by Bitcoin, because that climate change pushing, ESG bullshit spewing CEO of MSCI doesn't want to be threatened. It's a privately held company with private interests. It doesn't have your interest in mind, and I'm going to expose them for what they are. So what I've shown you is there's a historical parallel between Netscape and Bitcoin. We're going through that corporate adoption. They're threatened by it. We're looking at institutional adoption. We're looking at national adoption. We're looking at an expansion in the utility of Bitcoin. We are seeing regulatory frameworks like the Genius Act and Clarity Act starting to come into being. We're looking at new treasury strategies that are coming to the market. And now we are starting to look at index level demand. Corporations want to have exposure to Bitcoin. The indexes and the rating agencies must support that. The market wants it. The technology is there. The auditability is solid. The market cap is huge. The liquidity is available. So to go and make a false argument that no, we can't have Bitcoin products on indexes, I'm calling it bullshit. We're all going to call it what it is. We're not predicting Bitcoin adoption at this point. We're just living through it right now, right here. So look at what we are doing in El Salvador. And why are we doing it in El Salvador, right? Because the US regulatory system is too tangled, too timid, too compromised, and too captured to allow banks to store native Bitcoin yet. Now that'll change, but I'm not waiting for that change. Ben is not waiting for that change. What we said was, guess what? Our belief is that that change will come to the United States and we will make America great again. But we're going to take an extra step. We're going to proactively go to a country which is freedom driven, which has the legal framework and structure to custody digital assets like Bitcoin directly in the banking architecture. We will build a software. We will do all of the Bitcoin-backed credit products while these guys here are still sitting and figuring out what they want to do. We're already building Bitcoin collateralized credit. We're going to build mining-backed notes. We already have multi-sig banking. We have a Bitcoin native financial architecture. So in many ways, Ben and I, we see this El Salvador experiment as a petri dish for the next generation of financial systems. See, the private key capital, right here, my hat. The private key capital is going to be a very, very significant company in the US landscape. And the reason it's going to be significant is because we have a head start. We're already building these products. We're already learning from a practitioner's point of view how to run this credit union, how to operate a Bitcoin treasury, how to create Bitcoin-backed products, how to take deposits, how to pay out stuff, right? How to do mining, how to take energy and convert it into Bitcoin and Bitcoin into treasury and treasury into credit derivatives backed on Bitcoin. So when the US opens up, which I believe is as early as 26, 27 timeframe, I think banks will start to adopt native Bitcoin adoption. We will be in the catbird seat. We will be in a position of strength. My son watches Formula One all the time, right? Pole position. 90% of the time, the guy who's on the pole position wins the race. For those of you who watch Formula One, I love it, by the way. I get up at 3 a.m. and watch it. So we're going to be in the pole position because we've already done it. We can now, the day they announce that US banks can accept Bitcoin into treasury, we're going to go buy a bunch of broken down pennies to the dollar credit unions. We know how to buy credit unions. We're going to buy energy sources. We're going to drop our software on that broken down credit union that doesn't make any money, and within a short time make that into a Bitcoin bank, which can give out Bitcoin products, Bitcoin treasury, and Bitcoin value. This is no longer a rebellion, folks. We can take that hat off. Bitcoin is now the blueprint, a blueprint for a new corporate America. And while America is still debating it, we're already building it. We're building it not because it's trendy, not just because it's profitable, even though it is hugely profitable, but because the future of money demands courage. Ben and I and our team here are not waiting for anyone's permission. Don't need it. Thank you. We are preparing the architecture so that when the United States wakes up, passes the right laws, we're already there. We have the keys in our hands. Private keys, folks, private key capital. And we can unlock that door. My time is up. Ladies and gentlemen, mathematics has already won this battle. The rest of the world is just catching up. Have a blessed day. Have a beautiful day. God bless you, and God bless America. Sherpa, take it away.
What if I told you a truck driver cracked the code to building a crypto empire? Meet Bitcoin Ben. He went from driving 18-wheelers to creating 6 different ways for regular people to stack Bitcoin and build wealth. This isn't just another crypto course. This is a complete ecosystem where you earn while you learn. First up, the confidential bulk purchase program. Get Bitcoin at wholesale prices through group buying power. Then there's Home to HODL. Convert your home equity directly into Bitcoin instead of cash. Need funding? The Loans for Bitcoin program gets you the capital to buy more crypto. Want passive income? Private Key Capital puts your Bitcoin to work. Hungry for something different? Bitcoin Ben's tokenized beef lets you invest in real cattle backed by blockchain technology. And if you want to mine, Bitcoin Ben's mining program gets you started with the right equipment and knowledge. But here's the kicker. Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club pays you to learn. Earn 10% on direct referrals, 5% on second level, 2% on third level. This might be the only membership where you make more than you pay. Ben went from 10 years behind the wheel to becoming the world's most unlikely crypto expert. Now he's sharing everything through live training, community events, and proven systems that work. Ready to stop watching from the sidelines? Join Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club today and start stacking sats while building your financial future. Your truck driving days are over. Your crypto empire starts now.